Hello internet friends, my name is Catherine and I'm the human behind Creation Musculature, and today is another Color Wheel Monday, the series in which I make my way through color theory one color at a time. So what we've done so far in this series is we've completed the triangle of the primer colors and we're working our way through the secondary colors, and today is our last day with electric violet, which is one of the secondary colors we're working with. So we will be doing our gradient of white to our ultra electric violet, and we're going to be adding true black to see the different shades and how potent true black is with our electric violet. So without further ado, let's get into this. Welcome back to another Color Wheel Monday, the series in which I make my way through color theory one color at a time. And we've completed the primary colors and now we're working our way through secondary colors. So we are currently working with our violet. In this case, we're using ultraviolet from Dharma Trading Co. And we already added red, and we've added the yellow, and we've added the blue. So now it's time for us to be doing the white portion, but since we don't have white color, what we're doing is going to do a fade of the ultraviolet, and we're going to be adding the black to see what we get with this. So without further ado, we're going to make our stock solution for this. So what is the stock solution? It is the liquid form of your dry powder. In this case, we're going to do 1% the 1% stock solutions. What is a 1% stock solution? It is 1 gram of dry powder for 100 milliliter of our water. So we're going to be doing this right now. And it's very important when you're manipulating dry powders. As soon as the jar is open, please use a respirator. We only have one pair of lungs, so please be careful with them. So let's do this. Since we're going to need more of the electric violet, I'm going to do 2 gram for 200 milliliters, so we still have our 1% stock solution. So we need 2 gram. Okay. Okay, and we have 2 gram of the electric violet, sorry. And now we're going to do the true black. And it's very important to make sure that we are at 0.0 for, oh, we need to buy more, before adding anything to the scale. Okay, we're doing good. So now we're going to be adding our hot water. So I'm just going to stir a little bit this one. Here we go. Okay. So now that the dry powder is no longer dry, I can remove my respirator and you can hear me a little bit better. So we're going to work on this. And the main reason I'm using those specific colors is because they're part of the starter kit that you can purchase on Dharma Trading Co. website. And it's important to work with your primary colors to understand how they work together and just explore and understand a little bit better your color theory, because when you understand color theory, it's just like it makes your life easier as a dyer. Even just a home dyer, it's important that you understand the results that you will most likely obtain while mixing certain colors. And it's fun to practice with 10 gram mini skeins. So right now we don't have any acid in our jars, and it's only tap water that we have. There's no heat whatsoever in them. So we're going to do first our fade or shade, fade, fade of the ultraviolet. Electric violet, what is wrong with me? So we're going to do 0.05% depth of shade up to 1% depth of shade, because this is the range you're more likely to be working with. So we're going to do 0.05 milliliter here, 1 milliliter, 2.5 milliliter here, and then we're going to go in. So I did 2.5, so now I need 5 milliliter of my stock solution, 7.5 milliliter. So the main reason I'm using the metric system because first of all, it is very easy to do your math that way, because I'm using 10-gram mini skeins, which means that if I want to have 0.5 depth of shade in this one, I just need 0.5 milliliter of my 1% stock solution. So it makes calculating stuff so much easier for my brain, and this is why I would encourage you to do the same. So we're using 10-gram mini skeins of fingering stroll from Knitpick. There will be an affiliated link in the description box below if you're interested to purchase the same ones as I do. So now we're going to add our mini skeins, and I like to do a lot of motion to open up the skeins to make sure that we have a good coverage on every single one of them. So this is why you will see me do those movements to shake it up a little bit. It helps to avoid to have too much resistance in your mason jar, because when you have a whole lot of resistance, this is when some spot of your mini skeins might not be fully covered, and you might have patches that are not fully like wet as well. So just a good way to try to have a more even coverage on all of your mini skeins. Perfect. And just two more. And after that, we're going to do the black one. So we'll have basically the same idea. What we're going to do is we're going to be adding the ultraviolet as our main character. So the primary color, well, not primary since it's a secondary. Anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. Yeah, so we're going to do the same fade with the true black, so 0.05% up to 1%. But in the meantime, I'm just going to add those to our double boilers, so that will be done. So let's give me a minute and we're going to do that. Okay, we're going to add the water now. And we're going to turn the heat on right now, because it will take longer for the water to reach the 85 to 95 Celsius that we need. So we're just going to get it started right now, and then we're going to wait 15 minutes before adding the citric acid. So we're just going to do the true black now. So we're going to basically do the same thing that we did with the electric violet. So, but the difference is that ultraviolet will be the main character in this one. So we're going to be adding 10 milliliter in each of those jars of the electric violet. And then we're going to do 0.05% depth of shade up to 1% depth of shade with the true black. So we can see how much how potent the true black will be with the ultraviolet, because I feel like those two colors together will be very pretty, first of all, but also that I don't know who's going to win the battle of the color. So we're adding 10 milliliter in each of those. There is no citric acid as of right now. Same thing as we did earlier. So that way we can ensure an even coverage of the yarn. Because as soon as you're adding citric acid, or if you're working with, what's the called? The color will start striking the yarn. And if you want to do it in a slower way, you just need to add your citric acid later. So that way it takes a longer and you have a better coverage of your yarn. This is my suggestion of what to do. Where is this? Here. And same thing with the heat. If you want to have an even coverage of your yarn, you want to start to incorporate your heat slowly, because same thing, as soon as we start to have the heat, it will start to strike and it will start to make sure that your color is there. So we've added the color here. So now we're going to be adding our yarn, and I'm already purple and black. Amazing. And we are going to do the same thing where we're going to be shaking it and moving it around to try to avoid resist within the skeins, and to make sure that there's enough liquid as well to, so each strand of the yarn will be covered. So yes, so the heat will help strike the yarn, but it will also help with setting the color into the yarn, because sometimes the problem we have when it comes to dyeing yarn, it's not necessarily that we don't have enough acidity to make it strike properly. It's just that we didn't have the right temperature. So this is why I repeat that you need to be between 85 to 95 Celsius when it comes to your water, because if you don't have that temperature, you won't be setting your yarn properly, and you will encounter more bleeding in the end, which sucks, but it happens. We just need to learn from our mistakes. And I'm someone who makes mistakes, so you can learn from my mistakes. That's the beauty of this channel. It's all about learning and growing and not repeating my mistakes if possible. We're all human. At least I hope we're all human on this channel. Cats and dogs are welcome. Okay, so we're going to do this really quickly. Okay, and now we're going to be adding those to the double boiler. So let's get in there. Let's turn on the heat. So we don't have any citric acid as of right now, like I mentioned earlier. So what we're going to do is we're going to be waiting about 15 minutes before adding any citric acid. And in 15 minutes, we will come back. And first of all, we're going to be able to gauge where the temperature is. And we're going to be adding the citric acid in both of those in 15. And once we've reached the proper temperature, which is between 85 Celsius and 95 Celsius, we're going to be putting a countdown for 30 minutes to let the yarn cook for 30 minutes. So I will see you in a bit. Okay, so it's been 15 minutes already, so now it's time to add our citric acid. So rule of thumb when it comes to citric acid in yarn and fibers and all that is that it will be 1 tablespoon per pound, so 454 grams of fiber or yarn. So in this case, I'm barely putting half a teaspoon. I'm like more on the 1/8 of a teaspoon spectrum of things, which is good. But sometimes you will need a little bit more citric acid or white vinegar for certain colors to strike properly. Where's my spoon? Okay, so let's mix. So the temperature is pretty good, so we can start a 30 minutes countdown for them. I don't know why this reminds me of grape juice. Okay, so see you in 30 minutes. Okay, so it's been about half an hour. And I think we're good. Yeah, so we are going to turn this off and we're going to let it cool down completely before we're going to be washing the excess dye. So see you in a bit. Okay, so I'm expecting some bleeding because I've noticed in some of my jars there was a little bit of color, which can be normal with when you have a high concentration of dye within the same thing. So they are, it's just normal sometimes. There's a point that your yarn cannot absorb and strike and vet every single gram of fiber of the dye that you will have in there, so it's normal. So this is why I like to let it like sit in the bath for a little bit, just so we are making sure that we are removing all excess dyes from there. So we'll be working a tiny bit, but not too much in here. After we've washed the skeins, I will show you the jars, and you will be able to see the tint. And it's with the true black that we have a little bit of a problem, but it's not a problem, but you know what I mean. And I just noticed I haven't put the second batch of skeins yet, and here we go. So I don't mind putting both colors together because at the end of the day, I know I will have very minimal bleeding, and also I know that it's the same colors basically that are in it, so I don't mind it. Where I have a problem sometimes is if I'm going to go with different colors. So for example, if you have red and green, sometimes you don't want to mix those in the same bath because you risk murkying the colors for both of them. So this is when I would avoid mix and matching the colors in your dye bath. So you will be able to see now that we are doing this. And I'm kind of excited because we only have 2 other colors to work with before we're done the secondary colors. And if you have any ideas of what you would like us to discuss, I want to keep my Mondays as like color theory, working with colors, and just not necessarily like being creative-ish. I don't know if it makes sense, but what I mean by that is that like my Fridays, I like to be able to create something, where the Mondays I like to explore theory and explore like the more scientific aspect of it, if you understand what I'm trying to say. So I don't know. Let me know what you think, because I'm very curious to know what you're thinking. If you've liked this series so far, you can also let me know, because I kind of like to explore color theory, because even though I went to a liberal art college and university, I never explored color theory before this job. So let's get into the mason jars, and after that we're going to let those dry overnight. And you can see at the bottom, those were with the true black. And here's a final result of the fade, the gradient of color, and adding true black to our ultraviolet. Electric violet, oh my goodness, I have such a hard time with that one. I don't know why. So we have the most subtle white lilac gray over here that I just adore. It's so pretty. Up to our electric violet, and you can see how dramatic the difference is once you start to incorporate true black into the formula. So it is a very subtle change. Like, this one is slightly more neutral rather than cool, and then we go very drastically into an almost black purple over here with the 1-for-1 ratio of true black and electric violet. Is it electric violet? Yes, I think so. I'll get there. Okay, so this is why it's so important to test with your true black when you're adding it into your formulas, because it will vary shift quickly and very drastically, because you go from 1 to 100 in a very short amount of time. So if you liked the video, please consider sharing, liking, and subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one very soon. Bye.